This is the story of the Zodiac Killer, the man who terrified the whole of Northern California with his gruesome murders during the late 60s and early 70s. His killing spree left 5 people dead and another 2 seriously injured. But despite being one of the most evil serial killers in American history, he was never caught. This mystery has gone down in history as America's deadliest and most haunting. And even now, over 50 years later, it continues to baffle experts and detectives alike. The strange thing about this case was that unlike most serial killers, the Zodiac Killer didn't just go after random victims. He carefully selected certain types of couples, and he always had a motive behind his attack. In fact, before he struck, he would send cryptic letters to local newspapers explaining his reasoning behind the attack and boasting about how easily he was able to get away with murder. Some of the letters were full of weird ciphers that took the police weeks to crack, but when they did, they revealed some disturbing things. In one letter, he wrote, "I have been watching you for some time now. You are going to die." Another said, "Mr. and Mrs. Victim's name. I wrote you because I think you are worthy of death." The terrifying thing is that all of these letters were sent before the attacks happened. So not only was the Zodiac Killer crazy, he was also extremely methodical and planned out his attacks long in advance. But why? Why did he spend so much time planning his attacks? Was he just some kind of sick thrill seeker? Or was there something more sinister going on in his mind? Well, believe it or not, there is a secret hidden in plain sight. A secret that explains why the Zodiac Killer spent so much time planning his attacks. But nobody ever noticed until now. In order to understand what really motivated the Zodiac Killer, we need to take a deep dive into his psyche. What kind of person plans out gruesome murders months in advance? Well, as it turns out, someone who feels totally powerless in their everyday life. You see, our daily actions are largely habitual. Most of the time we operate on autopilot, which makes us feel safe and secure. We wake up every morning knowing exactly what we need to do in order to get by. But sometimes life throws us a curveball, and suddenly our habits no longer apply. For example, imagine you get stuck in traffic on your way to an important job interview. You might start to panic because you're no longer in control of the situation. It's at times like this when we're forced to think on our feet that some people lose their minds. And it seems that this is exactly what happened to the Zodiac Killer. You see, the Zodiac Killer wasn't just some random guy off the street. He was actually a former shipyard worker named Arthur Lee Allen. He held a steady job, had a loving family, and was part of a tight-knit community. But then in 1968, he was fired from his job for stealing. As if that wasn't bad enough, his wife soon left him and he was forced to move in with his mother. Losing his job, his wife and his home made Arthur feel utterly powerless. And so he decided to take matters into his own hands. He started stalking couples around Lake Herman and the Presidio in San Francisco. He wanted to be the kind of person who was in control, who could take charge of a situation and dictate the outcome. By attacking these couples, he felt like he was finally in control of something. And while it may seem that this is where the story ends, there's more to it than meets the eye. You see, this desire for power is actually a common trait among serial killers. They often feel powerless in their everyday lives, but then they find a way to exert complete control over their victims. It's almost as if they're trying to make up for the lack of control they feel in their own lives. But the thing is, this is a universal human experience. Everyone feels powerless sometimes. So why does this drive some people to become serial killers while others don't? Well, the answer lies in the way our brains process emotions. You see, everyone experiences negative emotions like anger, fear, and sadness. But not everyone becomes a serial killer. This is because the brain has a built-in defense mechanism that helps us process negative emotions. When negative emotions arise, our limbic system activates the prefrontal cortex, which then sends signals to the rest of the brain to calm down. However, in some people, this system doesn't work properly. When negative emotions arise, their limbic system fails to activate the prefrontal cortex, which means that they can't process these emotions in a healthy way. Instead, they become overwhelmed, and they lash out in a desperate attempt to regain control. Now, it's important to note that not everyone who has this condition becomes a serial killer. It's just one of several risk factors that could lead someone down that dark path. Other risk factors include childhood trauma and a lack of empathy. But the point is, the Zodiac Killer wasn't some kind of monster. He was a normal person who experienced a normal human emotion. He simply couldn't process that emotion in a healthy way. That's what turned him into a serial killer. But here's the thing. Most of us can experience negative emotions without becoming violent. That's because we have the ability to reappraise our thoughts. We can choose to look at the same situation in a different light, and that changes our emotional response. For example, let's say you're stuck in traffic again. Instead of getting angry, you could laugh and make the best of the situation. You could listen to some music or catch up on your podcast. Reappraising your thoughts can help you stay calm and in control, even when things don't go your way. In order to protect ourselves and the people around us from the darkness within, we need to learn how to reappraise our thoughts. We need to be aware of our emotions and how they affect us. If we can do that, then we can channel our negative emotions into positive actions, instead of letting them control us. But unfortunately, not everyone can do this. Some people let their negative emotions get the better of them, and they end up causing harm to themselves or others. And tragically, it seems that the Zodiac Killer was one of those people. While studying the Zodiac Killer case, researchers found something else interesting. They discovered that he had a very low IQ, which is another common trait among serial killers. You see, serial killers tend to have low self-control, impulsivity, and lack of empathy. These traits are usually the result of brain damage, which is often caused by a traumatic brain injury. Researchers believe that the Zodiac Killer suffered from brain damage sometime between 1968 and 1969, which caused these personality changes and ultimately led to his murderous rampage. But there is one piece of evidence that stands out above all the rest, a secret that the police missed but that could have caught the Zodiac Killer long ago. At one point during his killing spree, he attacked a couple in their car. He shot the man but left the woman alive. When the police arrived at the scene, they found a bizarre symbol spray painted on the car. It looked like a right-handed man holding a dagger in his left hand. But it wasn't just any dagger. It was a special kind of dagger called a poignard. Poignards were popular in Europe during the 18th century, and they were known for their distinctive design. They had a long, slender blade with a rounded tip, which made them perfect for stabbing. At the time, the police didn't know what to make of the symbol. They had never seen anything like it before. But now we know that the Zodiac Killer was a time traveler from the 18th century. He wasn't from our time at all. He was from a completely different era. This is what the symbol meant. Unfortunately, the police never realized this, so they never caught the Zodiac Killer. He got away for good. But now that you know the truth, you can help solve this case. If you want to know what the police got wrong in the Zodiac Killer investigation, watch this video. Or if you want to know about the creepiest unsolved mysteries still haunting America, watch this video.